So I do honestly believe that there is life in the universe outside of just Earth for various reasons. The biggest one is that mathematically there are a lot of planets in the universe. Um, there's something like 100 billion stars in the Milky Way alone, most of them having their own planets, and there's a lot of galaxies in the universe. Many of them are the same size or bigger than the sun, so that's probably trillions of planets in the universe, and it seems statistically improbable that life only developed on just one. Um, Outside of that, there's other uh, indicators that there might be life out there. There are a lot of planets that are orbiting in the habitable zones of their stars, so there could be water. I think recently the James Webb Telescope did produce some results that there was an exoplanet somewhere that had photochemistry on it, and it's the first time we've detected photochemistry outside of the solar system. So um, there are planets, there are some exoplanets that probably have conditions to support life, and I don't see why there would be any reason why a planet that could support life wouldn't develop life at some point. I do think there probably is life within our own solar system outside of Earth. There's, uh, for one, Mars, uh, by all likelihood, had water on it at some point. There's what look like ancient rivers. There's rounded pebbles and stuff that can only be um, caused by water. So there probably was liquid water on Mars at some point, and if there was, and Mars probably also had a magnetic field because there was obviously there was geological activity at one point. The largest volcano in the solar system is on Mars, so Olympus Mons. So Mars was geologically active and had water, so it there was a decent possibility that Mars developed life on it at some point in the past. And if Mars had life at some point in the past, there is at least a possibility that microbial life still exists on Mars. There are on Earth. There are some very there are some life forms, some microbial life forms and microscopic life forms that are very, very resilient to everything. I can't remember what it's called, but there is some life that can exist in the vacuum of space for short periods of time. So they're extremophiles, are what they're called. Life that can exist in very hostile conditions. That we know that exists on Earth. So if life existed at some point on Mars and extremophiles evolved on Mars, then there's the very real possibility, I think, that they at least could be some microbial life forms still alive on Mars, maybe near the polar regions where there's water ice. And Venus is another good example because, as hostile as it is on the surface, it is a lot more hospitable in the upper parts of the atmosphere. And a few years ago, it was discovered that there was high levels of phosgene in the atmosphere, which is a possible indicator of life because phosgene can be produced by life, but it does break down in the presence of various chemicals in the atmosphere. So having high levels of phosgene is unusual and is a big indicator that there might be life there. It was more recently discovered that phosgene levels were a lot lower than originally believed, but it is still higher than what would be expected by natural processes like volcanism. So uh, there may or may not be some form of microbial life in the atmosphere of Venus. Um, I think Venus is one of the more likely candidates to host life in the solar system at the moment. And then there's some of the outer solar system moons, like Europa's the biggest one, and I think Ganymede too have, and Enceladus having subterranean oceans beneath their crusts, and there were there's probably oceans beneath their icy surfaces, and there very well could be life developed on them, especially if they are geologically active, because that may be one of the things that causes abiogenesis, although that's still a big field of research. But life developing in the oceans of those planets is a very real possibility. And we know that amino acids can develop outside of Earth. We've discovered amino acids on asteroids in the past, so life developing on those moons is not out of the question. And then there's Titan, which is a very interesting case because it also has an ocean. It probably has an ocean under its icy crust, like some of the others, but it is more interesting because it has an atmosphere, mostly hydrocarbons in the atmosphere, but it does have liquid oceans, liquid methane oceans, but it is the only other celestial body that is known to have liquid oceans on the surface, even though they are methane. And it is possible for there to be some very alien life on Titan that is more methane-based instead of water-based, like on Earth, which is very interesting. There was a study, I think something like 10 years ago now, where scientists were able to demonstrate that a lipid membrane that is necessary for cells to exist could develop in such circumstances. And there is also discovered that there is some weird chemistry going on in Titan's atmosphere that wouldn't be expected by natural processes. In fact, there are no known natural processes that can create some of the chemistry going on in Titan's atmosphere. For example, I think there is a lot of hydrogen cyanide being produced that should break down. There's a lot more being produced than there really should be. So one of the proposed hypotheses is that some form of life is actually creating some of the chemical products we see in Titan's atmosphere, which is a very weird thing to think about. There could be things that respirate using hydrogen cyanide instead of oxygen. That is a very bizarre thing to think about. But there is the very real possibility that Titan has some alien form of life that we're completely unfamiliar with because of the fact that it's so cold, and things like liquid methane and hydrocarbons are more stable at those temperatures. So there's that, and then there's just this is just within our solar system. That's not like there could be life within our solar system. So I think that it is probably not even possible that life doesn't exist elsewhere in the universe, if there's a lot of indicators that it could exist very well within our solar system. So I think it's crazy to think that there's no other planets out there that have not developed life. To think that we're completely alone in the universe is simply insane to me. I'm not sure about intelligent life. That's a whole other deal, because we don't have any real indication that other intelligent life exists. Mathematically, it should, for the same reasons that just life in general should. Life in general is probably fairly fairly common in the universe, but intelligent life probably not so much because there's no real indicators that there have been, except for there's like the WOW signal that was detected back in I think it was in 1978, but I'm not 100% sure. And that was a radio signal coming from space that was never repeated. It was never heard again, so it's possible that came from some intelligent life somewhere because there's no natural explanation for what could cause that, but it could be some natural process we don't know about. We don't know. We can't really study it since it only happened the one time. So there very well may be intelligent life out in the universe that we haven't discovered for some reason, but right now, as far as we know, we're the only intelligent life. It could be that intelligent life is just incredibly rare, so that it's like a 1 in a billion chance. But if it was a 1 in a billion chance, that's still 100 intelligent civilizations in the Milky Way alone. Although that is like a needle in a haystack, space is big. So it would still make it very difficult to detect. So I think while there probably is other intelligent life in the universe, I'm not discouraged by the fact that we haven't detected it yet because, like I said, space is big, like really big. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot more places to look. So it is exciting. It is really exciting times to live in with all of the space exploration that's going on right now. So I think, yeah, those are my thoughts on life in the universe.